before you do the cache lookup. This happens before you go looking for a cache miss. This is, we deliberately did not make a policy mechanism. There's no hook for if the answer is something I don't like, then block it. Right? The only hook we have is based on the query name, which is known before you search the cache, before you search upstream, etc. This all happens as close as possible to the very front end. Again, the policy is up to the content publisher. We have got data patterns that allow somebody to express a policy that says, make it disappear. Just return NX domain. We also have data patterns that express a policy that say, always return a CNAME to a given other target that is my walled garden, or always return a certain MX, or always return a certain A record, whatever it is. And so having a lot of experience in expressing policy via DNS, I tried to make it able to express every policy that I thought anybody might want to subscribe to or provide. As to exactly what that is, that'll be up to Spamhaus and the other people who want to provide content of this kind.
Did you have an idea from the content providers right now as what the cost of a subscription might be for, is it going to be cheap thing or expensive? Do you have any idea?
I think that the question is, do I have any idea of what people are likely to charge for subscriptions to this kind of thing? It'll be like anything, it'll be whatever the market will bear. That tends to be a high number for a multinational telecom provider and a low number for a small office, home office, or mom and pop or whatever. At least that's what we did with Maps, and that's what Trend Micro is still doing with Maps after we sold it to them. And I think that's what Spamhaus's pricing philosophy is also. If you price it so high that nobody subscribes, then you didn't do yourself any good. So I think you'll find that there will be premium providers and non-premium providers. There's going to be a lot of people who just say, hey, this is a great way to volunteer, and I'm going to create a free list, and then they'll get sued out of existence, and then they'll end up pointing themselves to dev null and so on. So there'll be a whole spectrum of price in this field.
Is it possible to subscribe to multiple feeds?
Yes. The answer, the question is, can you subscribe to multiple feeds? Obviously, each one you subscribe to is going to take RAM. We will not be making queries over the wide area network to get this policy. The only way you can subscribe will be by zone transfer. And that means you'll have it in RAM, because that's where it needs to be for us to maintain the queries per second metric that I talked about earlier. So the more you subscribe to, then the more time you're going to spend processing zone transfers and storing that stuff in RAM. Fortunately, RAM got real cheap in recent years. So yes, it's up to you. Whatever complexity you want to pay for, just put them they're processed in left to right order from the config file. Right here.
Is there any current implementation on client-side machines to do something similar to this?
Current implementation on the client side that does something like this. I know that some DNS appliances have functionality that is like this. I have heard, although I don't know, and as a shareholder, I wouldn't be able to tell you anything I actually did know, but since I don't know, I'll tell you what I've heard, which is that Nominum sells a name server that has functionality like this. I know that OpenDNS claims that they have some malicious domain control, and they'll block.
He was talking about the stub client.
Block certain names. I'll answer that question in a minute. But the answer is there's no standard. So the important thing that we are doing is not just publishing the patches, but publishing a thing that looks a lot like an RFC that describes what a policy zone like this should look like, in order to then hold everybody to the same standard and say, look, if there's content available, it's in that format. And if you have a name server that is capable of acting this way, it understands that format. So we're trying to make it so that there is a market of data provision and consumption. And so it's the common format that is maybe more important than our implementation in bind. But it only requires changes to the recursive name server. So if you're running bind, it's easy, just install my patches. If you're not running bind, you would have the difficulty of either converting to bind or trying to get your existing vendor to support this. But within a year, either you or somebody else will have beaten every vendor into supporting this. So I'm trying to describe a future where this is now inevitable because our stuff is free. Thank you for your questions. I feel less lonely now. I'm going to return control of the laptop to Robert, who will tell you what we actually came here to tell you. I'll be around the rest of the day and tomorrow over at DEF CON if anybody else wants to chat about this. And also, my email address is widely known, so if you want to talk to me about this later, then feel free. It's Vixie at isc.org. Thank you.